Hello, everyone. Herman Deal, the real deal here. This is the Better Wealth and Health podcast, and we are here with Stand Up Energy. I am here today with David Ward Sr. We got Stand Up Energy going, and we're going to get this podcast started. We're going to be talking about safety in the workplace, and David is in Dyer, Indiana. David, let's start off here. Say hello to everyone, David.
Hello, how's everyone doing this morning?
Everyone's doing a little better that we got this stand up energy going and this podcast going. So, first question here, David. You describe yourself as a humanistic safety authority, and you talk about creating a humanistic safety shift. What does humanistic mean in the context of workplace safety?
Well, until executives and owners of companies start to value their employees, and I mean value them as more than just warm bodies or numbers, value them, hear them, trust them, and respect them. And the more you invest in your employee safety, what you're actually doing is investing in their family's future and your company's reputation. So turning around and changing it from compliance to humanistic, that's the focus.
Yeah, sometimes just a changing of the wording can make a big difference. And yeah, compliance sounds like, you have to do it, and what a drag. And maybe you don't want to do it. Humanistic sounds, at least to me, more appealing. Like you're more motivated to do it because it's humanistic and we're humans, right?
Well, yeah,
So
it's that value. It's the value of your workers. Your workers are the ones who make you who you are today in any industry. So are we
yeah,
valuing them? Are we respecting them? Are we listening to them? you
yeah.
know because because they're the ones that are doing the work. Your safety programs are only as good as your employees make it.
Yep. And I think today, in the age of AI, using the word humanistic is also more important, more relevant, definitely. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you have said that more, safety should be more about than just rules, paperwork, and checking boxes. What is missing? What is missing when a company focuses only on compliance?
The building of the relationships. How often do you really engage and talk to your employees, from your supervisors down to the lowest employee? Do you ever walk the floor? Do you ever ask your employees, well, listen, hey, explain to me how you're doing, or what your job is, or what can I do to make your job safer?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that's important. And I remember reading a book where they talk about the Navy submarines and the men in the submarine. It was a military war book, and they would have certain rules, and then it would say that those rules were written in blood.
Yes.
It might seem silly when you read the rule, but it's because there's a very good chance that somebody literally got killed because that rule wasn't followed before, and that's why it's there today. And I agree. Like it would make it so much easier to be compliant if I knew the story behind why do we have this rule. Like this rule seems silly, but then when you hear, oh, because if you don't do that, then it leads to this, and it ended up 15 years ago killing this person. Oh, okay, that now makes sense.
Yeah, well, you
You know,
bring up a really good point, because there's a lot of people that go out and do all these daily walkthroughs or all these daily audits that they have. But if they're
yeah,
doing these daily audits and overseeing and watching people doing work, and all they're doing is making a list of things that are wrong, and they're not making it an educational process where they're talking to the employee about exactly what you just said. Why are we doing it this way? Right?
yeah,
If people knew the why, there'd be probably a lot less problems. And compliance, if
yes,
you look at the standards, OSHA compliances are nothing more than a minimal guidelines. And I don't know any company that is running their business on minimal margins, right?
Right.
So why would you want to expose your employees to all these safety hazards?
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, but and knowing the why makes the how easier, or at least it motivates you. And you emphasize that every employee has a family, a future, and people depending on them. How does safety leadership change when executives begin viewing workers as human beings rather than numbers or expenses?
Well, first of all, safety should be nothing more than an investment because when you invest in your employees, you're actually investing in your company. You're investing in your
Mhm.
reputation, right? You're investing in your longevity. You're investing in future partnerships. Why? Because if you invest in your employees, what do you think your employees are going to do for your company? When they know that you truly value them, when they know that you truly trust them, when they know that you're hearing what they're saying. Because supposedly, what? They're the experts running the equipment. Do we ever listen to them? They're the ones that are working on the floor. Do we ever ask them, what can we do to make the process better?
Yeah.
So, and then the families, the families send their loved ones to work, right? And their futures
Yeah.
depend on it. So if somebody gets killed or injured at work, is that company really doing, is that company going to make sure that that family continues on with their life, or are they just going to cut them that insurance check, or they're going to pay them 66 and two-thirds percent because they're on workers' comp? Is that
Mm.
enough for that
Yeah.
family to make it? Is that enough for that family to live on? When we start as leaders and owners of companies, when we start to realize the true value of safety, then I think companies will be more profitable, more efficient. I think they'll grab more business because people understand, wow, this company is doing something that other companies did.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important to ask and to listen because unintended consequences, you're doing something new, and then it's the person in the front line who really knows if there's a danger. And often you have to ask. And that kind of leads into the next question, because sometimes people don't speak up. Why do employees sometimes remain silent about unsafe conditions? And what can leaders do to rebuild enough trust for people to speak honestly?
Well, I think that goes back a long way. When we walk by stuff that's not fixed every day, machines are broken, not properly guarded. We don't have enough equipment for lockout, tagout, things of that nature. PPE, we put people in PPE without even doing IH testing and things of that nature. So when you turn around, people don't want to speak out because, listen, I knocked on your door 5 or 6 times, told you about this piece of equipment that's not properly guarded. And what have you done? Nothing. So people, they turn around and they just shut down. If you're not going to listen and you're not going to act, then why am I going to continue to bring issues to you? And that's where we
Right.
need to step that up as supervisors. When listen, and I understand supervisors are busy, they got a lot on their plate, they're handling more than one job at a time, but you have to take time. You have to stop what you're doing and listen to your employees. You have to
Yeah.
engage with them to let them understand that you care enough about them to get up off that desk or to stop that meeting for a minute and turn around and go see really what the problem is. Because if you don't and you ignore it, man, that's just silent consent. You walk by me 10
Right.
times a day and I'm standing on top of a ladder and you don't say anything. What do you think I think about you?
Yeah.
That you don't care about me. Because if you really cared about me, you would have told me to get my butt off the top of the ladder and don't do that again.
Right. Yeah. And that's where the supervisor has to engage and make sure that the employee feels comfortable speaking out, speaking up. Yeah, there has to be some trust there, obviously.
Yeah, and most supervisors, let's be real, most supervisors are supervisors because they know how to operate that piece of equipment. They probably were never
Right.
trained in personal communications and things of that nature. Then, on the other hand, how many supervisors really understand the safety hazards that are in their work area? Most of them
Right.
don't have a clue,
Yeah.
right? So, until they're properly trained, how can they actually protect their employees? If they
Yeah.
don't know the hazards and they don't understand what can actually happen to that employee,
Hmm.
when is the change going to take place?
Yeah.
How can I protect Dave?
Right. Interesting. So that brings me to the next question. I'm curious what your take on this one is. What, when something terrible happens, a serious injury occurs, where should the accountability begin? With the employee, the supervisor, company leadership, or the system itself?
Well, you have to look at every one of those. But I think sometimes when there's a tragedy, either a workplace fatality or a severe injury, I think people, when they do their investigation, they're afraid to look at HR. They're afraid to look at the executive staff. They're afraid to look at the supervisors. So what do they normally do? They go, they head right to the employee. The employee made a mistake. The employee violated 10 different safety rules. So that's what we're going to focus on. But that's not really the case, right? So you have,
Hmm.
if you're going to conduct an investigation, you have to be willing to ask the hard questions and you have to be willing to start at the top because that's where the accountability begins, right?
Right.
You have to have those expectations because
I mean,
without
yeah, I could see how it would be easy as an owner. Well, if we blame the employee or he had to do something wrong, what my default is the system. We have a system in place for safety, and he didn't follow it, and something wrong happened. That's where my brain goes to automatically. But yeah, you got to look at everything, obviously.
Absolutely, because in the system, the process, how many times have we actually looked at the process? We created the process one time, but things change. The
Right.
process has changed. Did anybody really take a look and say, wow, maybe we shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z at this point, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe we should have an emergency stop here. Or maybe the maintenance people need to do more maintenance on these pieces of equipment because we run them 24/7.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Unintended consequences. Things change all the time, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go out and you give presentations to these companies, and when you do that, what is the most important change you want business owners and leaders to make after you speak?
Well, I want them to truly understand that safety isn't a cost, safety is an investment. And if I can stop or change one CEO's mind, one owner's mind on the value of their employees, then my topics, my presentations, my workshops, they're not in vain then, right? Because if I
Right.
then on the other hand too, you got to go back to the employees and the supervisors as well. If I could get them to understand that, listen, taking shortcuts affects your family. Not wearing the
Yeah.
appropriate PPE when you're doing a certain specific task affects your family. I don't know any company that's paying you enough money to get injured or killed,
Right.
right? So I just want to make sure that, you turn around and people realize that. And I have people stand up and I have people think about their families before I start the presentation. Think about what you said to your loved one, what you said to your kids before you came here to work today. Now you come
Yeah.
to work and you take that shortcut. Why? Your family
Yeah.
depends on you. And as supervisors, I tell supervisors wholeheartedly, you're not getting paid enough money for the responsibility that you truly have as a supervisor. And people look at me with deer, headlights. And I'm like, because you not only have that employee's life in your hands, you have 3 to 5 family members that are dependent on you to do the right thing by their loved one. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of responsibility.
Yep.
But do
Yep.
we
It
ever think
sure is.
about it? Yes.
We need to keep it top of mind more. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm going to go into a quick 2 minute fit tip, 4 minute fit tip here, and then we're going to end, David, with you giving us a little bit more information of how people can reach out to you and contact you. And we mentioned this earlier in our casual conversation before we started the podcast. And I know one of the things that you do is sometimes you walk backwards, and I'm a big fan of walking backwards because you're giving your body um, new ways to do something. We are totally used to walking forward. So when we walk backwards, it can give us some relief for our joints, our hips, our knees. And even I think in a way more valuable is you're creating neural pathways in your brain. You're creating neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is a biological term that's used where your brain has to find new pathways to figure something out. This is very good for preventing things like dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And it's just a good, healthy thing to do. Get your brain to work a little hard, doing something different, just like doing something like learning a new language. I plan to spend a summer in either Canadian French zone or in France because I studied French for a little while, but I know that as we get older, if we make our brain work hard to learn a new language, or we do things like walk backwards on a treadmill. I would suggest do it on a treadmill, safety first, right? It's
Absolutely.
it's risky if you're just walking backwards anywhere. Don't do that. I mean, on a treadmill, you should use a treadmill to walk backwards and start at a very slow pace. But these things create neuroplasticity. Even something very simple like you always play ping pong with your right hand or pickleball with your right hand. If it's not a serious game, try it with your left hand. Let your brain work hard and, like, oh my God, your brain has to figure out now how to use the left hand to play ping pong. These are things that create neuroplasticity, prevent aging related dementia, and it's just a good thing to do, something to be aware of. And that's the fit tip for today. So, David, how can people reach out to you if I'm a CEO of a company and I want to have, I realize that maybe, I can improve the safety standards or just create more awareness of it. What's the best way to contact you to make that happen?
You can contact me either on LinkedIn. You can contact me on my email, which is dawsr at davidawardseniorspeaks.com. You can go to my
Okay.
website, which is the same, davidawardseniorspeaks.com. And if you really have an issue and you're not sure what to do, listen, you can call me 219-669-9043. My whole philosophy is I want to
Okay.
be a valuable resource for anybody who really is sincere about making a change. And if you're sincere, please reach out. I'll do all I can to help you.
Great. That sounds awesome, David. Thank you for helping companies out there be safer. And I know you were also in the military, so thank you for your service in the military as well.
Oh,
And thanks for coming on here. And I hope this has been helpful to those listening or to those watching on YouTube. We are here with Stand Up Energy. Go out and have a great and safe day. Thank you all for watching. Bye.
thank you. Take care.